Hey guys, it's Jeff with EUL Gaming and welcome to episode 2 of the Tarkov Primer. In this episode we're going to cover basic movement and weapon manipulation as well as some basic combat tips. We'll also touch briefly on some general things to be aware of while in raid and how you can locate and use extracts so you can hopefully make it out alive. In these first few raids, you want to focus primarily on your mission objectives, winning any fights you get into, avoiding fights you don't want or need to get into, and just getting out. We'll touch briefly on looting, but episode 3 of the primer is all about looting. With that said, let's get into it. First, we're going to start with movement and weapon manipulation, as Tarkov has several unique commands that alter your stance, as well as use the various gadgets on your weapon to check the status of your weapon. I want this series to be extremely thorough, so I will explain things sometimes that seem rather obvious, but at the same time I don't want to insult your intelligence, and I will assume that everyone watching this has at least some very basic experience with first-person shooters. So I won't be telling you that holding shift will make you sprint, etc. That being said, different games assign different commands for common actions, such as crouching and going prone. Go into your game settings under controls and check what these keys are. Also note that in the control settings, many keys have the option to be toggled, held, or double tapped. If you find that you're prone to fat fingering the G key and throwing grenades when you don't mean to, consider rebinding this or setting it to a double tap to prevent this from happening. Likewise, some people like to toggle right click to aim down sights when others prefer to hold. Set this to your liking. Once you've familiarized yourself with basic keys, let's get into the movement mechanics that are unique to Tarkov. First, note that Tarkov lacks any kind of a vaulting system. If you see something you want to get on top of or jump over, you need to literally jump over that object. You cannot climb or vault over any object in the game. Next, let's take a look at Tarkov's variable crouch. While holding the crouch key, scroll your mouse wheel up and down. You'll notice that your character will smoothly adjust his crouch height from a full crouch to a standing position. The game will also remember which crouch height you've set. So the next time you hit crouch, you will resume this crouch position until you change it. Changing to a full crouch or full standing while scrolling the mouse wheel will reset this memorized position. This adjustability is extremely valuable for finding cheeky angles to shoot through broken walls, through sandbags, etc. Walking speed. In Tarkov, you can also smoothly adjust your walking speed just like crouching. Without pressing any buttons, scroll your mouse wheel up and down and keep your attention on the lower left-hand corner. You'll see a white marker slide left or right as well as an audio speaker icon. The slower you walk, the less audible your footsteps will be. If you crouch while doing this, you will be even slower and quieter. The quietest way to move is with your movement set to its slowest speed while also crouched. You can quickly change between the maximum movement speed and the slowest by pressing the caps lock key. There will be many times when you'll need to sneak your way into or out of a dangerous situation, so keep your movement speed in mind at all times. And lastly, for player movement, we have leaning and corner peeking, as well as blind fire. Like in many FPS games, you can lean to the left or the right with the Q and E keys, but in addition to this, Tarkov has a slow lean and a corner sidestep function. Note, I don't recommend ever using the slow lean. In most cases, it will give the enemy more time to spot your movement, and it's better just to peek a corner quickly, rather than slowly, but I'll just tell you anyways. To slow lean, hold left Alt plus D to smooth lean right, and left Alt plus A to smooth lean left. To sidestep a corner, hold left Alt plus E to sidestep the corner to the right, and left Alt plus Q to sidestep a corner to the left. Tarkov has another unique movement mechanic where you can blind fire your weapon around corners or objects. While this looks goofy and is seldom used, it can actually have a legitimate application and you can actually get kills this way. To blind fire overhead, press left Alt and W. To blind fire around a corner to the right, press left Alt and S. There is no blind fire command around a left corner, as your character would have to switch the weapon from his right shoulder to his left. A tactic used in real life which may come to the game someday, but I imagine implementing the commands and animating this is pretty low priority for the developers right now. And finally, I want to talk briefly about sprinting and your weapon's position. In Tarkov, during a sprint, you'll tuck your rifle to your chest during the sprint and you'll be unable to fire while sprinting. When exiting a sprint, there's a very small amount of time where your character slows down as in the process of bringing his rifle back up to his shoulder. In many FPS games, the instant you stop sprinting, you're able to fire, but that is not the case in Tarkov. I've been killed many times because I misjudged the amount of time needed to exit a sprint and bring my rifle back up. I highly recommend you play around in the offline mode, sprinting and firing, or just holding down your left mouse button while sprinting so you can see how much time you need when exiting a sprint before you can fire again. Next up, weapon manipulation. Escape from Tarkov uses as few HUD elements as possible to deliver an immersive experience, as well as to place the burden of weapon status on the memory of the player as much as possible. There are no ammo counters or magazine indicators on the HUD, and instead there are a variety of ways you can check how many rounds you have left in a magazine, what type of round is in your chamber, loading and unloading, and so on. It is important that you memorize and master all of these commands so you can prevent a situation where you're low on ammo or are unaware of what type of ammunition you are shooting, as this is critical knowledge to have most of the time. Let's start with status checking. To check the approximate amount of ammunition in the magazine of your weapon, press left Alt plus T. Look in the lower right hand corner of your screen while doing this. It will tell you roughly how much ammo you have in the mag and also the type of ammunition in the magazine. Note, the ammo type displayed is only the top bullet in the magazine. If a different type of ammunition is mixed into the magazine, you would have to manually unload all of the bullets from the magazine. To check if your chamber is loaded, press left shift plus T. If you visually see a round of ammunition, you know the chamber is loaded. To check what type of ammunition is in your chamber, hit tab to open your inventory, then double click your weapon. At the bottom of your weapon's information window, the round type will be displayed in the chamber slot. Note, your chamber slot will always display a question mark until you execute the check chamber command. To check your weapon's fire mode, press left Alt plus B. Many weapons have 2 or more firing modes, and to change your firing mode, press B. Lastly, if you fire rounds from a magazine or pick up one off the ground from a dead body, the magazine will always have a question mark for its capacity. To check a magazine in your inventory, press your middle mouse button over that magazine and wait for the check to be completed. Now let's move into loading and unloading. When you press R to reload like any FPS game, you'll remove your magazine and pull a fresh one from your rig, but sometimes you can encounter confusing situations due to Tarkov's inventory system and realism guidelines when reloading, where you might find that you are missing magazines. Here are some general rules of thumb. First, you cannot stow the magazine from your weapon in a rig that is full. In the event that your rig is full, you will drop the magazine that was in your gun on the ground, then pull a fresh magazine from your rig and insert it into the weapon. You can then look directly at your feet and pick up the magazine you dropped. Second, if you are stunned from a flash grenade, you will always drop your old magazine while reloading. This applies even if you're only mildly stunned. Once a fight concludes, you'll have to either go looking for where you dropped it or leave it there and hope it comes back in insurance. You will always reload the most full magazine in your rig unless you reload with a command that selects a specific magazine. If all magazines are equally full, you will reload with a magazine that is in the most upper left of your rig. With those rules understood, here's some more advanced loading and unloading commands. To quick reload, double tap R. You will drop the current magazine on the ground and reload a fresh magazine slightly faster than the standard reload. As always, you can go looking for it after the area is secure. To remove a magazine from your weapon without inserting a new one, press left Alt plus R. This is very similar to the check magazine key combo, so be careful you don't accidentally remove your magazine when you're intending to check the magazine. To unload your chamber, press left Control plus R. You can repeatedly press this to completely unload your weapon and its magazine. If you want to completely make a weapon safe, remember to remove the magazine first. Just like with real firearms, if you cycle the action while a loaded magazine is still inserted, you will load a fresh round into the chamber from the magazine. These commands are most useful on shotguns to change ammunition types. And finally, to select a specific magazine to reload, hold R and scroll your mouse wheel. Release R while the magazine you wish to be loaded is highlighted. Pro tip: all of these commands have animations and sounds that are played while you perform them. Animations take time to perform and sounds can be heard by other players. To perform these actions faster and silently, switch to a secondary weapon if you have one. Then, from your inventory, double-click the weapon you wish to remove a magazine from, for example, and drag it to where you want. There will be no animation and the action will be performed instantly. This can speed up looting. There's a ton more I want to cover, but to prevent these episodes from being too long, we'll have to save some of it for later. So for now, let's finish with some basic combat information and how a raid really works. We'll get into looting and some more exciting stuff in the next episode. By the way, if you've been enjoying this content or find it helpful, consider subscribing. It helps me out a bunch, and you'll see our next episode as soon as it's posted. I really appreciate it. To activate a laser or flashlight module on your weapon, press T. Some tactical modules have multiple laser or flashlight modes. To cycle through these modes, press left Control plus T. Lasers give you a small hip fire and recoil reduction buff. To quickly drop your backpack, double tap Z. This is especially useful if you are overweight and need to be light on your feet in a fight. To raise or lower night vision or helmet visor, press N. You can also switch between different optics if your weapon has more than one equipped, such as a long-range scope equipped with a red dot. You can also change the magnification of most scopes. By default, the command to switch scopes is left control plus right mouse button, and to change magnification, it is left alt plus right mouse button. That being said, I highly recommend you rebind both of these controls to your mouse if you are able to. You will use these commands frequently, and in my experience, it is much smoother to operate these commands via your mouse and not by hitting multiple buttons, especially while in the stress of combat. In Tarkov, one of its major features is, of course, its detailed weapons and ballistics system. Not only are there many different kinds of armor in the game, but there are also a variety of ammunition choices that are more or less effective than others at defeating certain kinds of armor or dealing raw damage to the body. If you have a good understanding of real-world armor and ammunition types, you can probably guess what certain rounds do. For example, a hollow point handgun round will have little to no effect on a steel plate armor that is rated for rifle impacts. If you don't have this kind of knowledge already, that's okay, because although there are many types of armor and ammo in the game, you can separate them into three very basic groups: flesh damaging, mid-tier, and AP, or armor piercing. In a future primer video, we'll go over the very detailed information all about ballistics. When you're just starting out, you won't have access to many armor piercing rounds, but you can find them as loot on the map or off dead bodies of dead players or AI scavs. But until then, you're going to want to focus on going for the head. As I've mentioned before, a single round to the unprotected face will kill just about anything in Tarkov, so depending on when you've started in the wipe, you may be going up against fairly geared players, but if you can manage to hit them in the face, the fight will be over very quickly in your favor. At this point, you may have heard me mention the wipe a few times now. If you didn't know, Tarkov is obviously still in beta, and until all features of the game are implemented, the game occasionally wipes all player accounts and everybody starts over from the beginning. This happens roughly twice per year. At the start of a wipe, nobody has anything good and firefights are typically a lot more drawn out. But as players progress, their armor and ammunition selections will become progressively more powerful. This can make progressing with a new account midway or near the end of a wipe difficult, but certainly not impossible. In the description is a chart made by No Food After Midnight. It is an invaluable resource and easy to read and navigate. It lists every single ammunition type and its damage, fragmentation chance, and effectiveness versus different types of armor. Again, we'll go over the fine details of what this all means later, but for now, you can't go wrong with going for the head or face. Other than weapon, armor, or ammunition choices, player movement is a critical component in surviving raids both against the AI as well as in PvP. Being unpredictable while trying to predict the mindset and movement of your opponent is key. Take this situation for example on Factory. An enemy is on the stairs pushing me. Rather than hold my ground and potentially give the more aggressive enemy peekers advantage, use map knowledge to your advantage while matching their aggression. Go around the outside, leap down into the second floor, and come up from an unexpected angle. Quick peeking is another way to maximize your chances of winning a gunfight. Quickly peek a corner and you can spot an enemy. Now knowing their exact location, you can re-peek the corner aiming exactly where they are, now with peeker's advantage on your side. Pre-firing. Pre-fire is a very powerful tool in your arsenal. First, it gives your automatic gun a little extra time to stabilize its spray, as in Tarkov, the first few rounds you fire in full auto have a lot more recoil than subsequent shots. Second, it uses the game's networking latency to your advantage, putting rounds down range before you can even see your opponent. And lastly, it can really startle the hell out of some players. Check your corners. Being observant at all times in Tarkov is paramount. Other players will hide in bushes, in corners, behind objects, under objects, or on the top of a roof or other high structure. We'll go over detailed room clearing in the future, but for now, check all your corners. Scan all the objects near you and far away. Look for movement and listen out for any distant or nearby gunshots. The AI can also help you locate players. If you hear the AI angrily shouting at something and looking towards a certain direction, look at what they're looking at. It's probably a nearby PMC. And also related to this is using the game's unique sounds to your advantage. While wearing a headset especially, footsteps can be audible from a fair distance away, but footsteps and running can have a distinct and unique sound depending on if that player is walking on a certain type of surface or if they are above or below you. And not all surface types have the exact same sound. There are multiple types of walking on metal sounds. You can hear someone walk on broken glass, or take 1 or 2 steps on wood. As you learn the maps, you'll be able to determine someone's exact location depending on what material they've stepped on. Take this clip on Factory for example. I hear faint walking on a metal catwalk. I know there is no metal inside the factory office area, so I don't have to worry about anyone coming up the stairs down the hallway. Instead, I can make a near certain assumption that someone is walking on the metal catwalk outside the office area. There are a lot of different surfaces that make a lot of different sounds, so if you hear walking, stop and listen for a moment to gain clues to their exact location. And to wrap things up, you may have been successful in your first few raids, but you might not know how to get out of the raid. Double tap O to reveal all available extracts. These extracts are usually, but not always, on the other side of the map from where you've spawned. You might also notice that some extracts have question marks. This means that those extracts may or may not be available. So you either need to perform an action first, such as turning on power switch or unlocking a door. Some of these optional extracts may also have green smoke that can be spotted from a distance to signal that they are open, or maybe a spotlight that will be illuminated if they're available. Others, such as the boat extract on Shoreline, you'll just have to stand in the extract to know if it's open or not. Check the Escape from Tarkov wiki to get a detailed list of extracts for each map, as well as maps of their exact locations and any prerequisites required for those extracts to be used. We'll have more combat tips later, but for now this will get you started in your early raids. Focus on your tasks and don't take any fights that you don't think you can win. There's no shame in running from what you can reasonably assume is certain death. Until the next video comes out, keep progressing your character using this information. Don't forget to use your scav to make some extra money too. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the hideout and looting, so stay tuned. If you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a thumbs up. It helps me out a ton. If you want to see me play live, drop over to our Twitch channel. A link is in the description. Good luck out there.